The line at Brew and Bloom Cafe moved slowly. The kind of slow that made you question every life decision leading up to standing there. Craving your last shred of patience, Daniel sighed. Shifting his weight from foot to foot, rubbing his chilled hands together as the scent of hazelnut coffee teased his nose. His fingers were raw from a morning of handing out resumes. He wore his only decent coat, frayed at the sleeves, and boots with soles so thin he could feel the icy pavement underfoot. He wasn't supposed to be here, not really. Coffee was a luxury. And job hunting didn't leave room for luxuries, but today had felt especially hopeless. One more rejection email might tip him over the edge. So he came to the cafe, for warmth, for hope, for a $5 cup of optimism. To people ahead of him, a woman in a sleek black trench coat, hair swept up like a magazine cover, tapped her card on the reader. Declined. The cashier said with the apologetic boredom of someone who says it 15 times a day. The woman frowned and tried again, still declined. Daniel saw the subtle shift in her eyes, panic masked by a tight smile. She reached into her purse, digging through it like it might produce another card by sheer force of will. Sorry. Maybe there's an issue with the bank, she said smoothly, brushing it off. But Daniel caught at the twitch in her brow, the slight shake in her fingers. This wasn't just a technical hiccup. Something was wrong. I'll cover it, Daniel said. Almost before he realized it, the woman looked at him, startled. Her eyes were sharp, calculating and then softening. She was used to being in control. And this gesture cracked something behind her composed mask. It's fine. It's $4.50. He said with a shrug, it's not a big deal. He stepped up and tapped his own chipped debit card. For a moment, he silently begged it not to bounce. Approved. She looked down at her coffee, then back at him. Thank you, she said. Quieter now. No problem. He replied. Bad day. She gave a dry laugh. You could say that. He gave her a half smile, nodded politely, and turned to go. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Her name was Elise Grant, 42, CEO of Avalon Tech, a private tech company with a net worth of almost $600 million. She wasn't supposed to be in that cafe, wearing that coat she hadn't touched in years, in the middle of the city she'd once left behind. And she definitely wasn't supposed to have a declined card. But the world has a strange sense of timing. 3 days ago, Elise had discovered that her trusted CFO, her childhood best friend, the one who'd stood beside her through college loans and ramen-fueled business pitches, had embezzled over $80 million from the company. The board was in chaos. Investors smelled blood. Elise had flown into the city in secret, hoping to consult with an old financial mentor who ran a small firm nearby. She didn't want paparazzi. She didn't want news stories. She didn't want pity. So she dressed down, took the subway, kept her head low. She hadn't expected her accounts to be frozen pending investigation. She hadn't expected to be standing there, exposed and embarrassed, in front of a man who looked like he could barely afford the coffee himself. And he'd still paid. Later that evening, Elise returned to the cafe. She wasn't even sure why. Something about the man, his eyes, kind but weary, had unsettled her, not in a bad way. In a way that made her want to know him. In her world, everyone wanted something. He hadn't. She asked the barista about him. Dan, the girl said, pulling off her apron. Yeah, he comes in a lot. Always polite. Never buys much. Just sits and writes or reads job ads. Think he's had it rough lately. Elise felt something turn in her chest. Does he work? She asked casually. Not really. Got laid off last year. Degree in marketing, I think. But it's tough now. You know how it is. Elise did. 2 days later, Daniel sat at the library, cross-legged on a stiff wooden chair, staring at his laptop screen as another job application bounced back, with the soul-crushing subject line, "Thank you for your interest." He buried his head in his hands. Then came a knock on the table. He looked up. It was her. Elise. She smiled, more assured now, less distant. She wore the same black coat, but her presence felt entirely different, calm, intentional. You again, Daniel said, blinking. I owe you coffee. I think we're even. Well, I think we're not. She sat down across from him, placing the cups on the table. One was his favorite vanilla latte, light foam. How she knew that? He didn't ask. What are you doing here? he finally asked. Asterisk, she hesitated. Looking for someone. Asterisk, he frowned. Asterisk, I lied. She added quietly, the other day, about the card. Sort of. Asterisk, you don't owe me an explanation. Asterisk, I know, but I want to give you one. Asterisk, she told him the truth about the betrayal, the scandal, the pressure of being a woman in a male-dominated industry where a single misstep could erase a lifetime of work. About how tired she was of sharks smiling in suits. Asterisk, Daniel listened. Asterisk, when she finished, he didn't gawk or recoil. Asterisk, instead, he said, that's a lot. Asterisk, yeah, she admitted, suddenly feeling smaller. Asterisk, and what do you want from me? He asked, gently. Asterisk, she met his eyes. Help. Asterisk, Daniel blinked. Me. Asterisk, I need someone who's not part of the machine. Someone smart, grounded, with heart. Asterisk, I've been rejected from every job I've applied to in 6 months. He said, why would you want me? Asterisk, because you paid for my coffee when you didn't have to. That tells me everything I need to know. Asterisk, over the next few weeks, Daniel found himself pulled into a world he never expected. Asterisk, Elise hired him informally at first, just as a consultant. She asked for ideas, honest feedback. No suits, no corporate jargon. Asterisk, he told her things no one else would, when her pitch decks were too cold, when her messaging lacked soul, when her executive team needed to be reminded that people weren't just numbers. Asterisk, and slowly, something changed. Asterisk, in her. Asterisk, she laughed more, listened more, fought harder. Not just for the company, but for the people in it. Asterisk, in him. Asterisk, he stood taller, spoke clearer, remembered the parts of himself he'd buried under layers of rejection. Asterisk, by the 3rd month, Daniel had a title, head of narrative strategy, a full-time salary, a desk with his name on it in a Valontex downtown office. Asterisk, reporters eventually learned the story. Asterisk, the CEO who had once lost everything, quietly rescued by a stranger. Asterisk, but they didn't know the full truth. Asterisk, that she hadn't just been rescued. Asterisk, they both had. Asterisk, one evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline and cast golden light across her office window, Elise turned to Daniel with a smile. Asterisk, you know, she said, sipping a cup of coffee he'd brought her. You never did let me repay you. Asterisk, he raised an eyebrow. I think you've more than repaid me. Asterisk, no, she said, shaking her head. Not really. Asterisk, she reached into her drawer and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Asterisk, to the man who reminded me what real value looks like. Thank you for the $4.50 and everything after. Asterisk, Daniel smiled, not because of the words, but because in that moment, he realized something. Asterisk, some debts aren't repaid with money. Asterisk, they're paid forward with kindness, trust, and faith in the right people when the world gives you every reason not to. Asterisk, and sometimes, just sometimes, a cup of coffee changes to lives forever.